Thank you for listening to Pathways and Passions. Remember, these conversations are meant to inspire, not replace professional guidance. Take care of your heart, stay curious, and keep walking your path with passion.
Hello and welcome to Pathways and Passions, everyone, where we talk about everything relationships. Today, we're going to talk about dating with clarity. We're going to look at where our dating beliefs come from. We're going to take a look at how outside voices actually influence us in our dating. What about setting boundaries, right? We're going to talk about setting boundaries. We're going to talk about learning to trust yourself while you're dating. And today I have with me a most wonderful guest. Her name is Jasmine Ellis. And Jasmine is a 41-year-old professional based in Little Rock area who is navigating single life and dating in her 40s with intention, confidence, and clarity. So, she enjoys traveling, reading. This is reading like a dating profile, right, you guys? And spending meaningful time with her family. Jasmine is passionate about love and promoting healthy relationships, as well as civil rights and equality for all. She brings a grounded, honest perspective on dating, independence, and what it means to choose yourself while staying open to love. We're excited to have you here, Jasmine. One thing she didn't mention that she is also a part of the Healthy Pathways to Love leadership team. So I want to welcome Jasmine to Pathways and Passions.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
No, I am so honored because you guys, she is my daughter. So I am so happy. I'm so proud to have her because we have discussions all of the time. And she said, I want to come on your podcast, Mom. And I'm like, come on, let's share it. Let's get it. Let's get with it. So I appreciate you, Jasmine, for wanting to do this for our audience and being on our team and helping us with different projects, because we need to make sure that we incorporate, as we do, all age groups into this dating scene, because it starts so young now, right? And there's so many different ideas out there about what actually dating is. So today we're going to get started with talking about where our dating beliefs come from. And we're going to concentrate on culture, on family, on early messaging, because those things are so important. What do you think? How do culture and upbringing shape how people think dating should look in today's society?
I think that has a lot to do with how we date. Sometimes it might be healthy, sometimes it might not be healthy. We have to remember that people come from different backgrounds. Some people come from a 2-parent household, some people come from a 1-parent household. Some have lived with grandparents have taken them in, friends, some live with friends. I know somebody that was in that, raised by somebody else, a friend. So our relationship dynamics are structured from what we've seen growing up, what we've learned in daily interactions and whatnot. So it really depends on the demographics of what we grew up in. Also, culturally, going to church, going to mosque, your religions take a big precedence on shape how your dating life becomes. So that is important.
Being a young woman, what messages do women often grow up hearing about love and marriage, or what about timing of dating, timing of getting married?
Lord. A lot of times we're sold the Disney princess dream thing of this man gonna come get you, girl. He gonna come sweep you off your feet, and life, it's gonna be a whole fairy tale, but it don't. A lot of people, a lot of times, people end up like Ursula off the Little Mermaid. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I think that like I said before, the dynamics of how we were raised plays a big part in it. Church, we were told that, you be a church girl, you be good, you read your Bible, you pray, God gonna send that man. And it's 50, 60, 70-year olds. Where he at? Where he at? Because he has not got here. So I think different things shape what we feel and how we're able to meet a man. And I hate, especially for women, it's so much pressure on us more than it is for men about finding a husband. You got to get a husband, you got to get this, you got to get that. But that's just, that's society, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about how those messages show up when we become an adult.
So I remember in my 20s, I want to say, I remember I was just like, how come? Like, I had different friends that were getting married. But then I was living down south too, which is a whole different dynamic because a lot of people down south get married earlier. And so, I'm from Chicago. We were kicking it, we having fun, and then that stuff you wait on later. But being in that area now, I started looking like, what's going on? So sometimes we get an idea of seeing, of looking around, seeing our environment, seeing how do they match up with what we say we want and whatnot. And then we start self questioning ourselves about, what's going on, what am I doing wrong, and stuff like that. So it really plays in the point who you hang with socially. Socially, I have a group of friends that are all married, and then I got some of us that are not married, but some are happy, some aren't. So it really depends on where you're at in your life at that time.
Okay, so what happens if your life doesn't match up to what you thought that it should be regarding dating and marriage?
Then sometimes you just have to take a sit back and really think about, like, man, what's wrong? And sometimes nothing is wrong with us. Sometimes we have just not met the person that we're to be with, because we change in different aspects of
Yes.
our life. I'm not the same person at 41 that I was at 21 or 31. So we have to go through different phases. And sometimes we're lucky enough to meet somebody to have to grow with, and that's great and everything, but it's all in your timing and where you're at. So, like, I think that's how that goes.
Okay. And I used to work in career and technical education, and we I had a guy come from logistics and transportation. This always sticks with me in different at different points in time. And what he told the young people were similar to what you just said, which was, if you haven't if you're taking this logistics and transportation and you haven't found a job in logistics and transportation in Chicago, Chicago is not the only place.
Nice.
You have to go and look. So when I think about dating, I think about and our beliefs and where we are, and you talking about different phases. We have to sometimes go where it is unexpected to go. We can't just stay in the same place. We can't just date the same people. And I think that you're right. Things change over time. We become different people, right? So let's switch to talking about boundaries and
Okay, I like that.
protecting your peace and the direction that you are going in. What do boundaries in dating actually look like in real life? And not just about what we think that boundaries are, but what do boundaries look like?
Boundaries are really, I like to look at it as walls that are going to be up to block the BS to come to you, in all honesty. Because if, like a boundary for me, if I'm just getting to know someone, for me, a boundary is do not call my phone after 9, 10 o'clock at night. Because what we talking about that at that late? If you can't contact me during, like Big Red said, normal business hours, 9 to 5, like what's going on? Or even, before 7, 8 o'clock, but 9 to me is pushing it. And then sending unsolicited pictures. I didn't ask you to send me a picture with your shirt off. I'm trying to get to know you. I'm trying to get to know you as a person. I try to see that 6-pack yet, but just stuff like that, because it's like, oh, what? Because then that made me think, what kind of thought process are you rolling with? And that's not the type of woman that I am, so I'm not interested in stuff like that. Conversation, listening to how we're communicating. I prefer somebody that can communicate, that knows how to talk. We can talk about everything in the world, but to bring up like sexual stuff, like, to me, that's you're gonna get that blacklist, because it's just a turn off. And like, you don't even know me, I'm a stranger. So just stuff like that. Other boundaries can be, the type of entertainment that you like. And it's okay. You might like to be out in the streets. You might like to go here, go do, certain places. Well, I'm concerned about my safety or the people socially that are around in that. It's certain things that I don't want to be connected to. So if that person is interested in stuff like that, that's fine. Jazz just not the one for you. So just, I think it's important to have boundaries, because you weed out stuff before. I remember that $1 Million Matchmaker show with Patty Stanger. And one thing that always stuck with me was writing down your 10 things that you like, and then circling your 5 of boundaries of stuff like that. And stuff like that has always stuck to me, because it makes you weed out, different things. Your prerequisites, in this day and age, baby, you got to have a job. You can't date without a job. For me, you need to have emotional intelligence. You need to be able to have, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to live your basic self without needing anything from me. Anything from me you don't need, if you could live on your own. So just, all kind of stuff just works well with it. So that
And I
and
know
it
that,
helps.
and I know that on the because I know you so well. I know that what you're saying goes for you as
Yeah,
well.
me.
So that's really important,
Right.
for women.
I can't ask nothing no more of you to have than what I have now. So that's just like the basics. When people talk about bare minimum, that's bare minimum. We're not even getting into to eating, because heck, we gotta eat. Stuff like that is like, you get in the car, you put a seatbelt on. You're supposed to do that. You get in a relationship, you're not supposed to cheat. So this like ABC type of stuff for me, but some people can't weed that out in the beginning, and that's why it's important to have boundaries.
Right.
Mm.
Nice. Yeah. So, how can boundaries help you avoid confusion and emotional burnout?
Um, they can help with that the point of where you know what you want, and if you see that this person has these certain type of characters, this type of character, then you know, okay, don't do it, because you're gonna burn yourself out trying to get in different spaces, you know. Men and women run into people a lot of times that you get burned out from them, because you know you want to help them, and you get to the point of where you just helping them with the basics, and it burns you out because you're on a different emotional level, to where I interact this way, I work this way, but if you're down here, it's hard to talk like this. And you know, sometimes people have issues where it's been life or whatnot, but that's not your responsibility
Mm,
to get there and grow them up to them. And it's so many men and women who I've known who have come in contact with stuff, and then I've seen. So it's that's important. The boundaries are like your roadmap, the prerequisite of what's gonna go on from here to, because up from there, you know, you get in. So that's it.
oh, that's interesting. That's great. What's the difference between being open? Because you just kind of talked about the boundaries of people, um, where they are on their own level, with their
Mhm.
own boundaries, with their own plan. What is the difference between being open and over giving in situations like that?
Okay. Over, let's see. Men open is to understand. Okay, let's say somebody is has, you know, not the best job, and you know, they're working but they're struggling in their own stuff. This has nothing to do with you. You know, this is the person's life, their decisions. Our decisions bring
Mm-hmm.
us to where we are in our lives. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
our it's not our responsibility at that. But you can have somebody in a place where financially, you know, you're not in a place to really date, but you have somebody that really likes, you know, likes them, and not understanding that that's not their responsibility. Another thing could be, hey, let me, you know, I know you're having a hard time, let me buy you some groceries. Stuff like that is, you know, okay. But where it gets toxic, where it can easily get toxic, is to connecting yourself to then take on that person's stuff, which will burn you out, because you know you're trying to take care of you in your life. Now you got an extra child in that stance, and it's not fair. And sometimes people get tricked, a lot of people get tricked into stuff like that. But the important thing is knowing when to be like, you know what, this is not going to be conducive to what I want in that. So when you know, I want a man that can provide, and not necessarily it being provide and buy me this and that, but can provide safety for me, can provide I like to go out on dates. So being able to go out on dates, doing the basic stuff like that, is something that's important. So it's you know, it's knowing when to get involved and what not to. And that's the beginning of it. So many people get caught up in that and don't know how to get out, because sometimes we might be in a spot where I really want a partner, I really want this person, I know they can do something, I know he can do better, I know she can do better, but seeing them do better, they got to put into action before you get yourself involved.
Yeah,
So just
yeah.
that.
I know I can remember, when we did not live together, and
Mm-hmm.
I moved a person in because they just explained how they were so down on their luck that they were getting put out of their house, da 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 da. And I was like, well, Oh, okay. This was when I was younger. Um, and they moved in, and right away I was like, "Oh, this is not going to work."
Okay.
We
So,
have been. This is not going to work. There are certain things that have to be taken care of,
yeah.
and this is not going to work. So you have a time frame. You have a
Okay.
time frame. You're gonna have to.
Hey, and that's what, but and you got them together, but you also separated stuff because he was sleeping on the floor. So you so
We don't talk about everything, you guys, because this is life.
yeah,
So we
it's
grow and we
nice.
grow, we learn and we grow,
Bro, yeah.
And so for all of my ladies, young ladies, older ladies who tend to do that because you have such a big heart, men will tell you in a heartbeat, no,
No.
don't do it. Because if he cannot take care of himself, he
How you
will
gonna take care of
not
you?
be able to take care of you.
No.
So don't do it.
No, no matter how good it sounds,
Right.
and you don't want to get in that turmoil, that circle of
That's
over
right.
and over and over
And
again. It's
especially
just
if
not
you have
fair.
children, because if you have children,
Yeah.
then what are you showing them? If you
Uh,
have a male child, what are you showing your male child? If you
yeah.
have a female child, what are you showing the
Mhm.
female child?
Yeah.
Right? So we have to
Mhm.
be careful. We have to think about those things. So,
Yeah.
Jasmine, how do those boundaries change the quality of our connections with people?
Um, it helps. Okay, I'm gonna answer these from my view of being
Of
able to.
course.
That just
That's what we want your
well,
view.
yeah, right. So, okay, say it again. Say it one more time.
So, how do boundaries change the quality of the types of connections that we make with other people, with the people that we're we want to date?
It helps quality wise because you know what you're not gonna put up with.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna worry about Ray Ray over here because he ain't got no job. He all over the place. You got kids all over the place. Stuff just not even aligning. Or Paul that is a nice guy, but he's just not in the space to date me. I'm gonna know by my boundaries that this ain't even nothing I'm trying to get involved with. So for now, I'm gonna be meeting people that actually align with me, views wise, professional wise, emotional connection wise.
Okay.
So that's a difference in that, and it plays out in who we interact with. It's like they say the like your circle of friends, they
Yes.
look like you start to look like you, and different views of different parts of our life. So
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
changing, and it should change. It should
Yes.
not stay the same. You should not be having and dating the same people that you were dating when you were 21
Yes.
and expecting something, a better course of action, if you're not working on yourself, if you're not setting boundaries for yourself and things like that. I know my best friend, one of my best friends, my brother Brandon, having that male communication, that concept of being, remember how before he was married, dating people and listening to what he was saying about these women, I'm like, that girl crazy. But you come into different things, but this is how men and women work. This is how they think, and it's just important to take up into that part.
Now I know we belong or we visit the same social club together.
Yes.
And I know recently we were having conversations with some of the men who have changed their
Yes.
lives, who are better husbands to their
Husbands.
wives. And it may be their second or their third marriage, or it may be even their first marriage, because
Mm-hmm.
people do not stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's important for people to know that yes, you live, yes, you learn, yes, you
Yes.
grow into the person who you can become, especially if you're looking at the types of boundaries that
Mm-hmm.
you are setting for yourself, no matter who you are.
What?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you started talking about your brother Brandon. And so let's move the topic over to friends, their opinions, and the pressure sometimes of friends
Mm-hmm.
that we find ourselves in. So staying grounded when everybody else has something to say. Everybody else has some advice. And
Yeah.
most of the time, and I'm sorry to say this, but it is just the truth. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, or sometimes, we listen because I'm a proponent for both
Yes.
people, for all people. So it's not just one way in this with this person. It's not just one way. I mean, with one gender or a different gender that way. But how do friends influence dating choices, even when they mean well? How do they influence? Um, can you tell us that? You can talk about the challenges of, or the ease of, what, how do you
It's
feel?
challenges because I've been on both ends of the spectrum. Um, let's see. I know I was seeing someone a couple years ago, and like we clicked, it was good, but it was certain stuff that he would say that was kind of like thrown off. And like I would talk to like the people in my circle who I trust, my mama and three of my friends and my sister, and well, I got a nice little circle. My other mama, my other sister, just being able to have bounce off these situations and knowing that they got my best interest of saying like, is this okay? Or them noticing stuff, then I could take it and be like, you know what, that is right. Like something's up with that. And being able to have a better view, because sometimes we need a better view of a bird's eye view from somebody else, and seeing that. And then but I wasn't defensive about it. It was because I know that I want a partner, and that he would be an extension of me, you know so stuff like that was important. So if I'm missing something, go ahead and tell me. It's not gonna hurt my feelings, especially if it needs to be said. um then I've been on the opposite end of listening, or interacting with friends and family that have dated men and women that were just, it just was not a healthy relationship. And knowing that, taking the risk of saying, hey, you know stepping out my comfort zone. But
Yeah,
that's the thing, I'm only going to do it if I care about you. I'm going to say something, because if I don't, hey girl, boy, that you're going to learn on your own. But stepping out and saying, girl, or boy, you deserve better than this, because this is not in alignment with what you say you want. If you
okay.
if you're voicing to me that this person is doing this and that, and that's what I hear, and I see
Yeah,
see how you are, then it's that I hate seeing the people that I love in a situation like that. But it's also backfired. They've gotten mad at me, or and some have got mad, and some have been like, you know what, Jazz, thank you for saying that.
yeah,
Sometimes I got to hear it from another way, and hear it from a different perception, from somebody else, which is fine. And I love that, because it's healthy, because none of us are perfect.
yeah,
I might not want to see that he does this. But to be honest and bring it to me, that's the best type of thing that you can have. So another thing is knowing what type of friends to talk to. If
yeah,
you have a healthy relationship, and stuff. If you're not being emotionally abused, you're not being financially abused or physically abused, and they have a good relationship, I think being able to take advice and seek advice from people like that are fine, because they'll tell you, nothing is perfect, but there are boundaries. There are things that don't need to be happening in any type of relationship. Nobody deserves certain things like that.
Yeah.
And I'll only speak on it if it's just like, wake up, it get to that, and like that girl on that video says, stand up. It takes us there sometimes, but we also have to remember everybody is not ready to hear. Everybody's not ready to hear that from about your relationship. One thing I have learned is that you can talk about anything, but don't talk about their partner because you about to get the real deal of stuff. But when you love people, you're honest with them because you want them to succeed in that area. Because for me, my partner, he wouldn't be the everything, but it's something important of in my space and in my dwelling and stuff like that. And that's just, some stuff we got to hear, but you got to be ready. You got to be ready to take accountability, because I had to do it. I had to get to that spot of being ready to be like, Jazz, now this is not in line of what you want. And so taking the accountability and saying, I'm making these decisions. I'm choosing to make these decisions, to talk to somebody that just, it ain't working. We come into the same thing. We having the same conversation over and over. At that point, it just ain't workable. And that's okay, and life moves on, but not to sit in that. And be able to say, this is what I'm doing, but this is what I'm about to do to make it better and to get to a better stance.
Yeah. Wow. You said a lot in all of that, and I appreciate that, because you know what? Sometimes some people are not ready to hear the truth. And we have to wait sometimes. And sometimes those friendships actually are severed because you can only hold truth conversations versus just glossing over different types of conversations. And I think that it comes from an intention of love.
Yeah.
And I think that people can hear love when there's no jealousy, when there's no fear, when a person is coming with a good intention to help improve your life. And as you say, across the board, friendships, relationships. But that particular relationship is a sacred relationship.
It is.
And I think that sometimes when we want to give advice, we have to really listen to hear if people are actually ready to receive that advice. Right. Or you have those friends, you have those who are maybe not ready to hear that advice. Then you have those friends who that you can just tell those, tactfully, you can tell and inform them of what it is that you see. And the other thing I thought that you said that was so important is your circle. Your circle has to be, the people who are there for you intentionally, who love you and who want to lift you up. We talk about that in business all of the time. So how can how can we make comparisons, or how can comparison make people question their own timing or their own worth? Because sometimes we compare ourselves and it gets think about that.
I think that's comparison is self-sabotaging.
Okay.
Because you might not have gone through the same stuff that they've gone through, and they surely might not have gone through what you have gone through, because I know many people that have been married and or in relationships, and that it was, it looked good on the outside, but the inside is so much turmoil. We don't like each other. you know we we're barely carrying on. We're looking for what looked good versus what is good. And then on my side, for me, it's, I would like a husband, or if I find a good partner, whatnot, if it works and we have great communication, like we're not having all kind of stuff. I know I've been asked a couple of times, like, Jazz, if you're with somebody, how come you don't post them? How come you don't do, y'all don't never post pictures or anything like that? And it's like, okay, y'all posting pictures and y'all don't even like each other. You don't even talk with each other, So I think comparison will get you in the whole cup of crap, because it's not where you are, it's where somebody else is, and we can't compare our walk to somebody else's walk, because it always looks good.
That's true. That's true. It may look good, but also be unhealthy.
Yeah.
It may look good to other people, but you have, as you said, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And there are people who will say it is what it is when it is not what it actually is. Right. One of our associates mentioned a movie this past weekend that I watched, and it had to do with the two women were friends. They were married to two different men, but one of the one couple's wife had seen her friend's husband before they were married. And I know that this sounds crazy, but I think that people get into those situations. And the one woman who was unhappy with what her husband was doing, he created his own business, and he was working and trying to get to that point of where he could take care of everything. The other guy chose a different career, and he and his wife were just jamming it. But the woman whose husband was trying his best, became so jealous of the other woman, and all kinds of stuff just started happening between their friendship, between her and the husbands. It was just crazy. And I don't like watching movies like that, but this is what I do know, that people place themselves in those situations, and you cannot compare yourself to another relationship. You have to work on your own relationship. Yeah. How do you decide, or when does advice become pressure? Let's
I've been on both sides. I could say I've had loved ones and family members who I'm like, you gotta do this. Let that nigga go. Let that man go. Let that person go. Keep it moving. But I'm doing it because I'm on the outside looking in and saying, baby girl, you don't have to do this. Or, come on now, you ain't got it. It's other women out there, it's other men out there. But they can't take it. They can't hear me. And it's a lot. It's just emotional. That part is the emotional, like, girl, guy, I wish you would get this so you don't have to learn the hard way. I'm trying to tell you, versus being on the other end of being of hearing stuff and being like, no, I'm, that's not me. That's not what it is. Just being in denial and and that's not a good place to be. But a lot of times we're in denial, not just because of that, we're in denial because of our environment, how our mind thinks. If you're not emotionally intelligent, you're going to be seeing stuff totally different from what is being placed in front of you.
Yeah.
So you'll
Yeah.
have the defensiveness, you'll have the, she think, he think, this, that. When a lot of times people are just trying to give you a idea of stuff. Like I've these last couple of years, I found myself being a really a person that a solution based person. I don't want to keep complaining over and over about the same thing and not coming up with solutions for it, because that's crazy. That's, to me, that's just crazy. I don't want to have the
Yeah.
same issue. What
Yes.
am I doing that is causing me to do this? I gotta take accountability, and I gotta say, okay, if I don't like the situations I keep or I'm staying in, what can I
Yeah.
do to make it better?
Yeah.
Where do I see myself? And it's little steps. It don't even have to be big.
Yeah.
And I understand sometimes you're so in depth emotionally in this crap with someone where it's hard to get out of, or where you may feel it's hard to get out of. And you just gotta place yourself where you're gonna start making, like that movie, baby, start making baby steps of how can I get out, what things can I do that'll get me out of this, so that even if it's getting this person out of my life, getting this person out of my house, getting this person so away from me that you're not interacting in my same circle of where I am socially. And those are just the small steps. Then you got to heal yourself, to you got to heal your mind and your thinking, and take away different things about men and relationships, like we were talking about earlier, dynamics. Growing up, I didn't have both my parents in my house.
Right.
I had my mama, I had you. I
Right.
saw my daddy and stuff, but it wasn't where I'm learning about how to be a man,
Yeah.
or from that. So it's taken me some time. I shared this with a friend of mine a couple months ago, of just the importance of, man, if my dad had known this, because he didn't know no better, he didn't know. If my dad had known this and been able to teach me this as a young girl,
Yeah.
some of the stuff that I
Yeah.
that you get into.
Yeah.
But and I was in my 20s
Yes.
of getting to that part. So of having to unlearn, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But what's gonna make you harder and your life harder is choosing to stay in something. And
Yeah.
it's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay to because those are feelings of anger, embarrassment, and things that are very valid. But it's just that self-sabotaging of our mind, and the importance of why we got to recreate our mind, and why we got to have partners that can think and not stay and stuff, and move forward and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's important.
Um, that just kind of popped into my head about some of the things that we talk about sometimes regarding our DNA. We
Mhm.
talked about culture,
Mhm.
um, and our DNA, and how our DNA actually carries a lot of what
And
we
stuff.
experience if
Yeah.
we don't address it. If we do
Mhm.
not address it, and we don't want to change those things, there's some things
Yes.
that are just not going to change. And so I
Mhm.
think that sometimes when we open ourselves up, it's just like, for us, opening ourselves up to different belief systems,
Systems.
you
Yeah.
know, and becoming aware over time of who we are in our belief system, what is it that we really believe? Do we just
Believe.
believe the things that we've been told by, our parents or our ancestors, or do
Mhm.
we start looking at something a little bit different?
Different, yeah.
Open ourselves up to hearing other people, hearing about other cultures, hearing about other relationships, hearing about, so yeah.
Come back next week, Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. for part 2 of our interview with Jasmine Ellis, Dating with Boundaries, Finding Your Way Through Love, Culture, and Expectation.